Hello and welcome back to another edition of News Project Live on GNAT-TV's Facebook page. I'm Andrew McKeever, the news director at GNAT-TV's News Project. It's a pleasure to have you with us today on Friday, April 22nd. Today, as many of you know, is also Earth Day. Started back in 1970, and it's a celebration of our home planet here. Locally, if you want to take part in one event that's going on in connection with that, there's going to be a cleanup at the Riverwalk in Manchester going on starting to this afternoon at 4 p.m. If you want to swing on by there and help folks out cleaning up the Riverwalk. But anyway, moving on to a few of the other stories we're following. We'll start off in Montpelier, where the governor and the legislature are kind of butting heads a little bit over some major items that will have to be resolved before the legislature calls for an adjournment, which is anticipated to be sometime in the middle of May. Right now, they are not seeing eye to eye on the proposed $8.2 billion state budget that is passed out of the state Senate, is now before the House. But they passed their own version of a spending plan in March, so they'll have to reconcile some of the differences. But meanwhile, the governor has weighed in this past Tuesday during his press conference, expressing some concerns about the spending proposals contained in the budget plan that the Senate passed this week, and also concerned about a separate deal on the long-term pension problem for state employees that has been a major issue for the past several years. There have been a lot of underfunded or unfunded aspects to the state pension plan, and after a long time of, I guess you could say, kicking the can down the road, there's an attempt being made right now to try and deal with the structural problems of that and pay down some of that long-term anticipated deficit, which is, I believe, reckoned in the $6 billion range. And the longer those unfunded obligations are not met, of course, the worse that gets. We'll come back to that in a moment. But first, just wanted to kind of briefly go over some of the issues surrounding the budget that the governor and the lawmakers are not seeing eye to eye with. The budget that the Senate passed earlier this week includes a lot of money for some of the areas the governor has emphasized recently: broadband, climate initiatives, weatherization, clean water. But lawmakers and the governor are not seeing eye to eye over housing and economic development. Both want to spend and invest a lot of money on housing. As we've all come to know, there's a critical shortage of housing, or affordable or workforce housing around the state. And lawmakers have come up with an idea on how to invest some of the federal ARPA dollars that have come the state's way, but want to attach some conditions to how that gets spent, so that developers and landlords can't just do completely what they want, and that tenants and homeowners need to have some protection. But the Scott administration is not seeing eye to eye on those, as he's referred to them, poison pill amendments. So right now they're going to have to work out those differences before the governor is going to sign off on a state budget. The governor has been concerned that some of this one-time federal money is going to be going into sort of ongoing state systems. The legislature would like to put more money into the Vermont state colleges to help them through a very difficult financial stretch they're going through. And the legislature has also proposed to increase reimbursement rates for the state's community-based health agencies. The House wants to put in a 7% uptick on that. Senate has come up with an 8% number. The governor is proposing 3%. So That'll be another area they'll have to work out. Just to go back quickly to that pension question, as many of you know, this has been a long-term problem. And earlier this year, the Senate passed a bill that would call for the state to put $200 million into a one-time cash payment and also require higher contributions from workers. This was worked out in some very long and no doubt painful discussions and negotiations. But the Scott administration earlier this week at the governor's press conference on Tuesday said this simply doesn't go far enough, and again is just kicking the can down the road. The Governor Scott would like to see lawmakers incorporate, I guess you could say, a risk sharing provision, which would allow employees to adjust their contributions based on the stock market's performance, and also wants to include a defined contribution or like a 401k style retirement plan as one option for new employees. Not clear if the governor would veto that pension bill if the lawmakers don't agree with what he would like to see. That was kind of left dangling there at the press conference. But in any event, both the labor unions and the Democratic leadership in the House and Senate have said they're done with making changes to the deal that they came up with through their long negotiations earlier this year, and that it's just too late for the governor to weigh in now at basically the 11th hour. As many of you know, a pension is usually referred to as a defined benefit, whereby the employer would guarantee a certain dollar amount that would come to retired employees as a pension. And if that underperforms in some way, that investment doesn't come up with enough money as the pension fund appreciates, it's up to the employer to make up the difference. But with a defined contribution plan, like a 401k is, employees, employers only promise to make a certain contribution, and if that retirement fund doesn't do as well, it's up to retirees to make it up. So there's a major difference there. And again, legislative leaders have said, hey, no way are we going to reopen the pension deal. But so we will see. Two big stumbling blocks here that the governor and the legislature will have to work through, and we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks. Turning to more local stories, we've been following the story up in Londonderry with the Williams Dam up there. This past Wednesday, a special town meeting was held, or I should say a special select board meeting was held to discuss the future of the dam, which has been rated as poor and is considered to be failing. It's almost 140 years old. The town conducted an engineering study earlier this year. Then the engineering consulting firm came up with 4 alternatives. You could do nothing, hope for the best, rehabilitate the existing dam, or maybe remove it entirely, and or replace it with another dam a little bit farther downstream. There are all different dollar amounts attached to all those various fixes. About 60 people showed up for the special select board meeting at the Old Town Hall on Wednesday. A lot of questions were asked. You can watch the full video recording of it on GNAT-TV's website at gnat-tv.org. We're also going to be having a little segment about it to summarize the high points, hopefully coming out by early next week. This will also be a question for Londonderry voters at their town meeting, which will be coming up on Saturday, April 30th. This will be one of the articles on their warning. Londonderry is one of the communities that opted to hold off on having their usual annual town meeting in March, waiting until it would be possible to have it in person and indoors at their town hall like they usually have. So that will be one item they will discuss then, and either vote to move ahead with removing the dam or doing something else. So we'll see where that goes. And we will also be at their town meeting to report on that. Also, new head of Long Trail School has been named. gentleman named Colin Ego has been named the new head of the school. It has been led by former BBA headmaster Chuck Scranton on an interim basis since January 1st, when the previous head of school, Seth Linfield, resigned. Many of you will remember there were some concerns being expressed by parents and some members of the faculty about the administration of the school prior to that point earlier this fall. And a search committee was formed in January to recruit a new head of school, and they have now found their person. He does have some local connections. He used to teach at the Stratton Mountain School, and he comes to us from he was currently the head of an upper school in Dallas, Texas. So we'll be learning more about Mr. Ego as time goes on. Also, a major announcement on the PFOA settlement for Bennington area residents. You remember over the past, let's see, going back about 6 years now, Bennington residents were concerned about release of contaminating substances from a factory that used to make Teflon. And an agreement was reached back last November. It has now been signed off on by the court. $34 million settlement altogether, and residents who lived in the sort of the pathway of the drinking water that was contaminated and also the air will be getting a cash settlement, and also their medical monitoring costs will also be covered under the settlement. Staying down in Bennington just for a minute, also worth noting that this year, or this week, I should say, this past Monday, the Bennington Monument is now being lit in blue and yellow colors to support folks in Ukraine as they struggle through a very difficult time under assault from Russian military forces. And after a certain amount of work, the monument has now been lit up. They had to make sure that they didn't interfere with plane travel from the nearby airport, Morse Airport in Bennington. They were able to work out that problem, and lights will be on each night for the next 5 or 6 weeks until May 26th, from sundown until midnight. Just closing up, we'll just review some of the recent COVID numbers just released from the health department. Today, the health department is reporting 331 new cases in Vermont, 57 folks in the hospital, 5 in the ICU, and 3 new deaths, taking the total since the start of the pandemic in March of 2020 to 629. Here in Bennington County, 38 of those 331 new cases come from Bennington County. We've seen 150 over the past 2 weeks. Our neighbors in Rutland County had 19 new cases, 241 over the past 2 weeks, and in Windham County, 8 new cases and 120 over the past 2 weeks. That compares to 341 new cases that were reported on Thursday. Look at the New York Times dashboard, just for comparison's sake. We're seeing across the United States a 52% increase in cases over the past 2 weeks as the BA2 subvariant begins to make its way across the country. Here in Vermont, we've seen a 68% increase over the past 2 weeks. In Bennington County, according to the New York Times dashboard, 160% increase over the past 2 weeks. So again, maybe a little premature to throw those face masks away just yet. Well, all right, that'll do it for us for today. Again, happy Earth Day. That reminds me that Green Up Day is coming along fairly soon. Saturday, May 7th is going to be Green Up Day. So if you haven't signed up to help clean up your the roadsides going through your neighborhood, well, there's still time. All right, that'll do it for us for today. I want to thank you for being with us today on the News Project Live's Facebook presentation. I'm Andrew McKeever, News Director at GNAT-TV. Great to have been with you today. Have a great weekend. We'll see you again next Friday. Take care.